It's a pleasure to have you here. I am Bernice Abubeidulansa. We are coming to you live from our studios here in Kokomlemle, Accra, live on DSTV channel 421, Go TV channel 144, and around the world at myjoyonline.com. The details now. Government says it will gradually phase out the double-track system in senior high schools while introducing the semester academic calendar in junior high schools. This came during a press conference held by the Ghana Education Service this morning. JoyNews' FOSTINA SARFO was there. She'll be joining us shortly with more on this. But if you may recall, during his 21st address to the nation on the COVID-19 pandemic and measures taken to prevent its spread here in Ghana, President Akufo-Addo mentioned that senior high school students, that's SHS1 and SHS3, would return to normal classes, i.e. the double-track system has been scrapped for those years. And, well, we are being told, given further details by the Education Ministry this morning, and FOSTINA SARFO was at that particular press briefing and will be joining us more. But still in the education sector, the President did mention that university students will resume on the 9th of this month, which is just coming Saturday, and on the 15th, senior high school students will resume. And so we are told that there will be some disinfection exercise in the various schools to deal with the coronavirus pandemic and its spread. The President also mentioned that the wearing of masks and other COVID-19 protocols will be observed even as children go back to school from kindergarten all the way to university. Schools have resumed for all these levels. And so we'll be getting more from the Education Ministry, even as we wait for FOSTINA SARFO to join us with details of that. Well, thankfully, we've been joined by FOSTINA SARFO now. Hello, FOSTINA. Tell us more about how the double-track system will be phased out by government. Hello, FOSTINA. Well, if we still have Fosti, if you can hear me, tell us more about how government intends to phase out the double-track system. Well, it appears FOSTINA can't hear us, but well, when we're able to establish a good line, she will give us details of that and many other issues that were discussed at that press briefing earlier. There you see in your shots the GS director who just walked out and a couple other officials of the Education Ministry and Education Service, I beg your pardon. Hello, Fosti, just give us more details about how government intends to phase out the double-track system.
Thank you very much, Bernice. Now, currently, the government's plan is to ensure that they phase out the double-track system gradually. Now, just like the President said, for senior high school students, SHS1 would resume school on the 10th of March, while SHS2 and 3 will return to school on the 18th of January. Now, government's plan is this. SHS1 students, when they reopen school, would not be running a double-track system. They will be operating the single-track system. Now, for SHS3 as well, they will be operating the single-track system. However, SHS2 would continue to run the double-track system, and they gave reasons as to why there is this change. They said that over the period of 3 years, government have embarked on a series of infrastructural improvements in schools, and as a result, they would be able to take the number of students that are coming in for the fresh batch, which is the SHS1, as well as for the continuing students, which is SHS3.
Beyond phasing out the double-track system, what else was announced by government at this press briefing?
The government is also creating some sort of a timetable plan for children with special needs. They want to ensure that contact hours lost for students are also recovered. So according to their estimations, so far over the period that students have been home since March to date, students have lost an average of 1,701 hours in terms of contact hours. And so they've created some sort of a timetable that allows students to write their exams, which is WASI, in September and October. With that, they have a strategic plan to ensure that during the period, students would have recovered 1,700 contact hours. Now, also, they stress that students that would be coming back to school are cross-board, which is, I'm referring to kindergarten, which is pupils in kindergarten, JHS, and primary school. They, kindergarten, primary school, to be precise, sorry. All those students, all those pupils, I beg your pardon, would be moved into a new class. But the Director General of the Ghana Education Service stressed that it is not a promotion for them. What they've done is that since you have not been able to move to your new class as a result of staying at home because of the pandemic, they are giving you a new class. However, contact hours has been stationed in such a way that you would receive lessons for classes for previous years. So, for example, if you were in KG1, when as the government announced the closure of schools, when you resume school, you'll be in KG2. However, in KG2, you'll be receiving lessons for subjects and curriculum time you missed in KG1. That's what government plans to do. All
right. Faustina, before you go, I remember during the time when WASI students and BC pupils were in school, teachers were complaining of the lack of personal protective equipment, PPEs. Was anything mentioned about that, how these were going to be distributed across the schools?
Yes, please. GS said they already have a plan, a strategic plan for the disinfection of schools and also distribution of PPEs. According to the Director General, currently schools have been contacted and they will be receiving their first batch of PPEs soon. He doesn't give a specific date, but he says according to the calendar they're working with, which is dates for the reopening for various schools, they'll work accordingly. He also cautions some private schools against billing students or pupils for compulsory COVID testing. He insists that that is the job of the Ministry of Health, and if peradventure any child would require COVID-19 testing, they should not be compelled to pay for it.
Right. On that note, we'll leave it here. Faustina SARFO just giving us details of that press briefing by the Ghana Education Service and the Education Ministry, which ended a while ago. Basically, what we have been told is that there's a plan to phase out the double-track system for senior high schools, and we just learned that teachers or schools aren't supposed to bill students or pupils for COVID-19 testing. And so we'll be following up on this and also checking across the schools to get reactions from heads and teachers and let you know what their thoughts on. Well, meanwhile, pre and basic schools will resume school on Friday, January 15, and this was announced by the President in his latest address to the nation on measures taken against the COVID-19 pandemic.
A much better position to oversee successfully the full reopening of our schools. Our children must go to school, albeit safely. We are satisfied that in the current circumstances, the reopening of our schools is safe. So from 15th January, our children in kindergarten, primary, and junior high, in both private and public schools, will be back in school. All SHS1 students will start classes from 10th March, with all his students embarking on a single-track academic calendar. Their seniors in SHS2 and SHS3 will, however, return to school from 18th January. I must stress that SHS 3 students in all schools, like SHS 1 students, will no longer run the double-track system. The expansion of infrastructure at the various senior high schools over the last 3 years has brought us to this favorable situation. However, the double-track system will still be applicable to SHS2 students in schools that are employing it. Students in universities and other tertiary institutions are to be in school from Saturday, 9th of January. Prior to their return to school, government through the Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service will ensure that all institutions, public and private, are fumigated and disinfected. Schools and institutions with their own hospitals and clinics will be equipped with the necessary personal protective equipment and have isolation centers to deal with any positive cases. All other schools and institutions without their own clinics and hospitals have been mapped to health facilities. There will be, for now, no mass gatherings and no sporting activities. However, religious activities for students at school under the new protocols will be permitted. Social distancing and the wearing of face masks must become the norm in our schools. The requisite provisions have been made to ensure that students at all levels of the education ladder receive the minimum number of contact hours upon their return to school. To facilitate the safety of students, government through the Ministry of Education will provide face masks, Veronica buckets, hand sanitizers, liquid soap, rolls of tissue paper, and thermometer guns for the safe reopening of the schools. The Ministry of Information, the Ministry of Education, the Ghana Health Service, and the Ghana Education Service will, from Monday, 4th January, commence a series of sensitization campaigns to help prepare, inform, and educate guardians, students, and the public on further modalities associated with the reopenings. I want to use this address to assure all parents and guardians the government is determined to protect the lives of all students, teachers, and non-teaching staff who will be returning to school from tomorrow. It bears repeating that every one of them must adhere strictly to the protocols to protect themselves and others. Fellow Ghanaians, it has been well established that the very first cases of COVID-19 in Ghana were imported into our shores.
Now, President Akufo-Addo will be making his final appearance before the 7th Parliament to present the State of the Nation address. The address, which will be the last in his first term, is expected to give account of his government's stewardship and press home the need for national unity and peace ahead of his second term. Presidential correspondent Elton Broby takes a look at the issues in the following report.
The 7th Parliament will rise for the last time for President Akufo-Addo when he delivers the State of the Nation address tomorrow in accordance with Article 67 of the 1992 Constitution, which states that the President shall, at the beginning of each session of Parliament and before a dissolution of Parliament, deliver to Parliament a message on the state of the nation. The development will signal the process to dissolve the 7th Parliament against the background of a nation clearly divided on political lines and a challenge to an election verdict. The President is expected to use the address to unite the nation and pledge to abide by the outcome of the electoral petition filed by the NDC's flag bearer John Dramani Mahama at the Supreme Court. But even before the decision will be made, the President is focused on his job, starting with the ushering in of the African Continental Free Trade Area.
This ceremony represents an important step towards realizing the goal of continental integration, to create an economically integrated and sustainable continent, capable of ending our dependency on foreign assistance and eradicating poverty, begins today.
On the midnight of Wednesday, 6 January 2021, the 7th Parliament will be dissolved. but outgoing MPs are not expected to be present. Here's the Director of Public Affairs at Parliament, Kate Addo.
11:55 since January 2021, Parliament, the 7th Parliament of the 4th Republic will stand dissolved.
48 hours after the presentation of the State of the Nation address, President Akufo-Addo will be back in Parliament to take the presidential oath to start another 4-year mandate. But the legitimacy of that action will be determined by the Supreme Court in March this year. For the first time, the swearing-in ceremony will take place at the Precinct of Parliament instead of the traditional Black Star Square. Head of Public Affairs at Parliament, Kate Addo, says the event is strictly by invitation.
Anybody coming will have to be invited. And then any media person wanting to cover will have to go through the process of accreditation.
JoyNews is learning the opposition NDC and its 137 members of parliament will boycott the event, similarly to the 2013 episode when the MPP did same after the 2012 election, which the party said was fraudulently won. Elton Brobe for JoyNews.
After the State of the Nation address on Tuesday, President Akufo-Addo will be sworn in on Thursday, January 7, as President of the Republic of Ghana for the next 4 years. This will be his second and final term in office as President. A number of arrangements, including security, are underway towards that big day. Late last year, Information Minister Pius Hatide announced that the precincts of Parliament will be the venue for the swearing-in ceremony. The Ghana Police Service has been given further details on security arrangements.
The security will be provided by personnel of the Ghana Police Service, the Ghana Armed Forces and security agencies. And we will provide the necessary security environment around all dignitaries attending the inaugural ceremonies. All the VIPs would be offered close protection as appropriate at the accommodation and every place they are earmarked to go. The venues will also be provided with maximum security. We are talking about the entire State House complex, the Accra International Conference Center, the Accra Sports Stadium, and the Black Star Square and their environs. All these places will be secured and patrolled by security personnel. Crash barriers will also be mounted at certain areas to cordon off and control movements to these venues, with security personnel directing movements. If you are not an invitation card bearing person or you are not accredited to come close to these places, please stay away from these places on the 6th and on the 7th of January, that is Thursday in particular. Please be reminded that there will also be officers in plain clothes without be moving about just like anybody else, and so you cannot be seen to be doing any wrongdoing because we will arrest you. COVID-19 protocols will be strictly enforced, and therefore we encourage dignitaries and all role players, particularly those who have been given accreditation, to respect same. There will be medical emergency and fire safety provided by the police, so police will have field clinics mounted at the State House and other vantage points, and the Ghana National Fire Service will also mount stations at strategic locations to ensure fire safety. Now, police will also perform ceremonial rules, and what will we be doing? The state sword bearer is a police officer. The police band will perform. We will also perform escort duties by the police mounted squadron and the motorcade, of course. We are asking the public and we are urging them to continue to cooperate to security arrangements for the inaugural ceremonies of 7th January 2021 in support of the constitutional framework of governance.
And that's from the Ghana Police Service. Let's head to the Supreme Court this morning. It's hearing legal arguments on whether or not to set aside the injunction granted by the HOHOE Court against gazetting of John Peter Amewu as HOHOE MP. Lawyers for residents of Santro Kofi, Akpafulipe and Lolobi say the Apex Court should allow them challenge the election of Mr. Amewu since their right to vote for an MP was denied them. So here are some updates we are picking. We understand that lawyer for these residents, that's Chachuchikata, is objecting to the panel, the Supreme Court panel. He says one of the judges, Justice Honyanuga, must recuse himself. Indeed, he stated in court that the justice was aware of the judge, I beg your pardon, was aware of the circumstances of the matter. Well, he proceeded to explain why he wanted Justice Honyenuga out of the case because Justice Honyenuga said he wasn't aware of what lawyer Chachu Chikata was talking about. Well, lawyer Chachu Chikata mentioned that he had a long-standing personal relationship with Mr. Ameru, and so he must recuse himself. Other panel members are Justice Apau, who is presiding, Justice Mafosal, Justice Tokunu, Amadou Tanko, and Justice Honyenuga, who lawyer Chachu Chikata wants out. Court correspondent Joseph Akable is following that particular one keenly, but we also know that there's a court case expected today, and that involves the minority leader in Parliament, Haruna Idrisu, and some other NDC MPs who are being charged for unlawful gathering. We're told that these MPs say they will not honor that invitation to court. We'll be following that keenly and bring you updates here on the Joy News channel. Do stay with us. We've got more right after this.